What is going on, guys? My name is Ari and welcome back to the channel. We're going to start this one off very quickly with a preface that is, I have the hiccups right now. So if you hear a lot of random cuts in the audio, it's because I started hiccuping, but I put on a nice shirt hoping that those two things would cancel out. All right, today I want to talk about balance. I want to talk about what balance really is and this concept that I think in Western culture especially, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to find, and we tend to operate in a culture where we're doing a lot of things. We have a lot of different obligations, a lot of different desires, a lot of different interests, and those can be very complicated to run simultaneously. And balance is something that people all strive for, right? We don't want to feel like there's certain things in our life that are causing added pressure or force in our day-to-day lives and our existence. And so I just want to talk through balance. I want to talk through what balance really is, if it is really balance that you are striving for, or if it is something else that definitionally appears pretty similar but procedurally becomes something entirely different. So if you are struggling to find balance in your life, these are three topics that cover balance in different arenas, essentially, that I think could be helpful for anybody in those three camps. All right, so the first one is what I was just talking about with the definition of balance versus this other word, and this is balance versus synergy. Essentially, perfect balance won't be achieved all the time. So what I would suggest is to aim for synergy. So definitionally, let's just set some boundaries, okay? So balance is all about equal weight everywhere. It's not realistic to assume, though, that all your interests will always be balanced. So if I had $1 and I have 10 different interests, obligations, or desires, think of those all as dimes, right? Like you'd have 10 dimes for $1. Okay, basic math, that's great. If you have a lot of those different interests, desires, obligations, what have you, balance is sort of about finding equal weight between all those different activities. And that's not something that we can have guaranteed all the time, because life ebbs and flows, and our interests plus our ability to devote ourselves fully to all of those different things will wax and wane depending on the amount of those interests, depending on the pulls that our life is bringing to us at different points in time. And the thing is that this perfectly balanced life, in that definitional sense, isn't sustainable, because you can't spend a full-time schedule working and then also expect to be able to spend 10 hours devoting yourself to improving your friendships and relationships and being a parent, on top of going to the gym and on top of working on your diet and your nutrition and your exercise. Like, at some point, we run out of time, and you can't give 100% of you to all of these different interests at the same point in time. Yeah, maybe once in a while, everything will be perfectly aligned in that sense, but it's just not sustainable. It's not something that you should think is possible to achieve and be able to hold down in that position. That sounded really sexual. And this is where I bring up the concept of synergy and a synergistic goal. Synergistic goals are goals that complement one another. So prime example for me is diet and exercise. If you want to be in shape, it will help to eat a primarily plant-based diet and eat really healthy, nutritious, high-quality foods and meals. And if you are also trying to be a healthy person, not only is working on your diet going to be good, but getting to the gym a few days a week is also going to be good. Focusing on your bodily health with the foods that you consume and the way that you move, right? So you could think of diet and exercise as synergistic goals. They're goals that complement one another. They do not antagonize one another. So the more synergistic goals that you have, the more easily you can probably find yourself in alignment more consistently, right? Because when you have synergistic goals, those goals complement one another. They're not zero-sum goals. It's not like you achieve one at the expense of another, because they complement one another, right? So the fewer antagonistic goals you have, the easier it will be to find that alignment in the arenas and areas in which you invest the most time and energy. Now, if you have antagonistic goals, that's totally okay, right? Like going out with your friends who you primarily see in a social setting where they're going to sit at a bar, that's fine. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have those goals, because they can be triggering different important parts of your life. Just you need to understand up front that those antagonistic goals are going to take more upkeep, and they're going to take more gas essentially to fuel a life that you feel like is satisfying to you. Do not necessarily strive for balance in all aspects of your life. Strive for synergy. Strive for a balance that makes you feel the best as often as possible. Number 2, kind of on the theme of synergy, but accept the fluidity of balance. So our desires and obligations and our interests, these things that consume our time, work, relationships, family matters, etc., these all happen at different speeds and at different amounts of force, essentially, that they exert on our lives, depending on their mass, depending on the size and the importance, essentially, of those desires and obligations in our lives. So there are going to be times in life where we sprint, where we have large bursts of energy in a concentrated period of time, and these sprints might require more of us all at once in one more concentrated period of time. There are going to be times in life when we endure, when we have extended periods of slow burns, where it's about putting one foot in front of the other more slowly, more consistently for a longer duration of time. And there are going to be times when our goals, desires, obligations, what have you, are a combination of a sprint and a marathon. They're marathons that we run at a really fast pace. Like, I think the prime example for this would be parenting. I don't know much about parenting, but I can imagine that that's something that requires a lot of energy bursts from you for a really long period of time. So these desires that we have will come at different speeds, at different paces, depending on probably the intensity of the goal or the desire at that point in time in our life. And the point here is that our desires, obligations, interests, etc., they're going to speed up and slow down. They don't often stay at the same pace. There are going to be times when I'm more focused on my exercise regimen, when I'm in the gym 6 or 7 times a week, versus now when I'm in the gym 3 or 4 times a week, because this week was a different week. And this week, relationships mattered to me more because my girlfriend has been visiting me. So this kind of thing happens all the time. There's not one speed that our goals, our desires stay at forever. These things happen. They speed up, they slow down. The importance of our goals is going to shift over time, and that's totally okay. That's totally normal. This is how things are supposed to go. And I would say that balance is sort of how well you manage that dance, how well you manage that maneuverability of these desires and the way that they shift in importance and power in our lives at any which way moment, the speed that they go at, if they're going to, quickly slow down or quickly speed up or quickly pivot left, right, or whatever. It's about how well you manage that dance as it's going along, not so much about how stationary you can hold yourself at that one point in time. And so the better that you get at balance is not really saying anything about your ability to remain at rest. It's not so much saying your ability to hold yourself wherever you are, but about your ability to flow, to move freely, smoothly, and unabatedly. When one part of your life is beckoning you to spend more time in it, it's having the freedom to be in control of that dance and to say, all right, well, if, part X of my life is requiring more time or more intensity, then I'm going to let off the gas on part Y, etc. like that. Just being able to dynamically shift and respond to the ways that your life is very naturally calling you to make changes so that you can balance that and keep in alignment. The third lesson that I would share is something a little bit more visual. It's something a little bit more tangible, and it's something that you can actually super concretely feel, even if you're not a very kinesthetically aware individual. And this one is called no pressure. Balance is sweet spot work. It's finding the point at which there isn't really gravity, there isn't really force reacting with the position that you're at in this particular point in time. There isn't real resistance wherever you are. If I lean left, then gravity's going to start pulling me to the left, and I'm going to fall left, right? If I lean to the right, then gravity's going to pull me to the right, and I'm going to fall to the right. But if I stand exactly where I am, and I stand tall, and I hold myself in this position, not this way where my body's now activating this side of my core to keep me upright or vice versa, it's not putting any force in maintaining where I am. I am where I am because it is the easiest, lightest place for me to be. There is no pressure when you're in balance. Balance is all about finding the no pressure moment, and the reason I'm saying this is because people think of balance as like everything should be in alignment, everything should be at equal weight, and I feel like a lot of times people make balancing all these different aspects of their lives, all these different things that they want to do, this battle of almost like attrition. It's like, how do I beat every single piece of what I want to do into submission so that I can neatly line it up and so I can schedule everything so perfectly? And that's literally just not how life works. Balance is all about no pressure. It exists as it is because it is the lightest, freest place to be. So find a schedule that allows you to be the lightest, freest version of yourself. Seek balance from a place of lightness. Don't try to add pressure into your life by making everything this equal weight, scheduled, ordinary, boring thing, because that's not what life is. Life ebbs and flows, and we need to ebb and flow with it if we are going to make it with the ways that our life is calling us to change. If you want to be in alignment, then try to find more synergistic goals. But if your goals are antagonistic, that's okay. Just recognize that those are going to be more complicated, more challenging systems that are going to ask and demand more from you. Let life guide you where it will and meet it exactly wherever it is. Over time, you will get better at leading that dance. You will not feel like you are reacting, and you will not feel like you are just tensely responding to everything that's going on. You'll feel like you are more in charge without needing to be domineering, without needing to be controlling, and you'll be able to hold it all without any pressure or strength at all. Balance, even though it sounds like a very complicated, arduous thing, is really about moving from a place of zero. Learn how to bring yourself to zero. With that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap up the video here. If you liked the video, then please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.